Hi, I'm Larry Vogel, and I love photography. All right, here we are in Photoshop, and we're looking at a landscape image. And today we're going to talk about the differences between global adjustments and selective adjustments. And this is a typical landscape image where we have the problem where the sky generally gets a little bit overexposed and the foreground has a proper exposure. So we need to apply an adjustment where we can darken this area of the sky while maintaining this exposure down here in the bottom. So a lot of ways to do adjustments in Photoshop. So the way we're going to do this today is we're going to go up here under layers, and under the layers we're going to select an adjustment layer. Now you'll notice we got a lot of options in here, different kinds of adjustment layers. Today we're going to use curves, which is a very simple way of darkening or lightening an object or making adjustments to the image. I'm going to go ahead and relabel this one because ultimately we're going to end up using this as a sky adjustment. And I'll say OK. And that automatically on the layers panel puts the adjustment layer here. And automatically you'll see there's a little white rectangle there that tells us that it has a white mask on it. What we're going to do first is I'm going to make an adjustment to the image, and you'll see on the curve here, when I take the curve line that runs through the center and pull down, the image gets darker. When I pull up, the image gets lighter. So very simple. I just pull this down, darker, up, gets lighter. There's a lot of other things that we can do with curves, but for now, we're going to limit this to just making the image darker. And right now I'm trying to get a good exposure where that sky looks a little bit better, where I've picked up a little more detail, doesn't look so bright. But you're going to notice that when we've darkened the sky, we've also darkened the foreground. We made it way too dark. This is a global adjustment, where this particular adjustment here affects the entire image. So we want to do something where we can make a more selective adjustment, where it's just going to affect the sky. And this is where the magic comes in on using masks. And masks are what help us create these selective adjustments. Now remember, the way that a mask works is the white mask that you'll see here, if I make it visible, a white mask is a reveal all mask. And a black mask is a conceal all mask. So we'll make that a little more obvious about what I'm talking about here in just a second. So what happens right now, we start with a white mask. That white mask now allows this curve adjustment, the darkening curve adjustment, to affect the entire image. So white allows the darkened curve to affect the entire image. That's a global adjustment. In order to make a selective adjustment, I'm going to make sure I target my mask. I'm going to go to my tool panel here. I'm going to select a brush. I'm going to go up here to my brush options panel and make sure I have the hardness set to 0. That's going to give me a real soft edge brush and create a really smooth transition where the curve affects the sky and where it doesn't affect the foreground. I can adjust the size of the brush here, or I can also do it with my bracket keys back inside Photoshop on my keyboard. So I'm going to go ahead and use my right bracket key and make the brush a little bit larger. Now my first goal is to make sure that I've got black set here as my foreground color. Again, the little boxes to the left will set to the default colors. The arrow will switch left or right to black to white in the foreground. I've already got a white mask, so I want to start with black in the foreground. Now remember, black conceals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brush and I'm just going to paint right along the ridge here where that mountain or hillside meets the sky. I'm going to go ahead and lighten this back here just a little bit too. And I'm going to continue painting with black, and you see it's slowly covering up that darkened curve. So remember, wherever we paint with black, it's going to conceal the curve, the darkening curve, or whatever curve we've applied to it, and wherever it is white, it's going to allow the curve to show through. So let's take a look at that mask and see what it looks like. Look at there. We have white on top. That's going to reveal the darkened curve. We have black on the bottom. That's going to conceal the darkened curve. And my soft brush, look at that transition. Nice and smooth. So it doesn't just go from white to black. It has that little transition in there. And that makes it invisible. So you can't see where I've actually painted. That is really what makes this whole process usable in the fact that you can't tell where I've lightened or darkened it. You don't have a hard edge between that darken and lighten area. And you'll see, just as an example, if I go back in and I crank the hardness up on my brush and I paint with black along this edge here, it's a little bit harder to see. So let me switch back here and I'll paint with the white. So you'll see there that when I try to paint with the reveal and conceal colors of black or white, and I come along this edge here and I switch back to that black color, you'll see as I'm painting here, we now have half of the image where I've used the hard edge brush and the other half where I've used a soft edge brush. Let's see what that looks like on the mask. So you'll see that hard edge versus the soft edge. If I go back in and we look at the image here, that definitely isn't going to work, right? So the whole idea is to be able to conceal where that change takes place, and that we do with a soft edge brush. So I'll go ahead and set that back to 0, and I will go ahead and paint along this edge with black again, right across there, just to put our edge back where we had it before. Make sure I got all that done right. And now we have what we call a selective adjustment. So over here on that curve adjustment layer, there's a little eyeball that's our make the layer visible or hide the layer adjustment. I will turn this off. There's the bright sky. There's our darken adjustment from the curve. And if I temporarily turn the mask off, holding down the shift key and click on that mask thumbnail, there's what the global adjustment looks like. Not so great. And that's what our selective adjustment looks like using that mask. You'll see there's a lot more complicated ways of creating masks and making selections and how we do localized adjustments. Really, this is what Photoshop is all about, this ability to go in to little spaces in the image and create changes to it, where there's contrast or brightness or color saturation, all those things we have the ability to do. And that is the magic of Photoshop. So let's remember the words of Ansel Adams: you don't take a photograph, you make it. So let's get out there and make some photographs.